Okay, sorry, Eric.
I miss you.
That's
Sorry,
quite all right.
it's not the right place to talk.
No, it's totally fine. Say hello as you come in. And then while you're saying hello, also click the link in the Zoom chat and start typing in some of your burning questions. You can have more than one, but just put one question per post-it note.
Just double click on it, Christine. Anywhere on the board.
Oh, this thing.
I see your cursor going around like crazy.
All right. I gotta think of a question.
So Nancy, this is, your group was guinea pigs because people kept saying, "Oh, how come we don't have a mural board to warm up on before we actually start the real class or the real workshop?" And I said, "Okay." So I finally created one, and we had one person try it. So I've always wondered if people would actually go do it. And it doesn't seem.
Well, I did send it to everyone twice.
I'm positive that you sent it. I just want some actual data because people always say, well, if you had given us pre-work, we would have done it. And I'm always skeptical, but we got 1 out of 12. So thank you to whoever popped in and did that.
I popped in.
Oh, so then it was just you. So then nobody else. It was just you. Did you put the picture of the dolphins? I
put the picture of the dolphin, yeah.
All right. So then it was just you and me.
Okay.
I was wondering whether anyone would do it or not, but.
I didn't even realize it was warm. Like I was told to open it. So I opened it earlier today, but I didn't.
You didn't do anything with it.
Yeah, like I opened it. I was like, "Oh, this is cool." And
well, thank you for checking it out, and maybe then I'll add some more explicit instructions for the next round.
Yeah, just say do the warm up because the warm up. I thought it was like wait and open it so you're do it when we start.
Reasonable. Well, Nancy, do you want to keep waiting or do you want to begin?
Give me 1 more minute. That would be great. I'm just checking off the people who are here.
Yeah, so if you are here,
feel
free to turn on your video. No requirements, but we'd love to create a more personal feeling to our meeting. And also click that link that's in the Zoom chat and you'll be taken onto a mural board where it says burning questions. And if you double click anywhere in that box, you'll get a post-it note and you can start typing.
I actually wrote that in today's instructions that we would like people to put their video on because not everybody always does. But
yeah, there's all sorts of reasons why you might not want to, which is all totally valid and reasonable. But if you are in a place and you feel comfortable, we don't care if you're in your pajamas or if you didn't brush your hair. I don't have any hair, so I get a free pass. I can roll out of bed like 2 minutes before and it looks the same. But don't feel obligated, but you are certainly welcome.
See, Jill Francis, I didn't even know that you wore glasses. Sure, let's get started.
All right, let's get started. All right. Did anyone have trouble getting onto the mural board?
Nope.
No.
All right, excellent. So everyone's there. I don't see everyone. Let me just do a quick refresh because I only see 4 people, but maybe some more are there. Well, I only see 4, but that's okay. Hopefully you will not have trouble. So I'm going to summon you all to the left-hand side. Has anyone used Mural before this exact moment? All right, so no worries. I'll give some, it's not a lesson on how to use Mural, but I will teach you enough that you can use it. So first I'm going to summon everybody. So you're going to look at what I'm looking at and welcome. So my name is Eric. I work at a company called Staircase Strategy, and I am a founder as well as a facilitator, and do facilitation around a number of things, but primarily design thinking and how do you work with your customers to create experiences and products that they're going to find delightful. And when I was talking with Nancy about what we might all do together today, we started thinking about how might you use facilitation to make meetings less boring, or make client pitches more successful, or prevent some people from taking your program off the rails if you're facilitating yourself. And so that's kind of what we're going to be doing today. You can see directly to the right of the welcome is an agenda, and that's what we're going to be going through, right? So we're going to start with introductions. We're going to look at your burning questions. I'm going to introduce a framework that you'll all be able to practice with, and then you'll design your own meeting before we pair and share, and then wrap up. So that's our hour today. Well, now slightly under an hour. Any any challenges with the technology before we begin?
Is everybody okay in the technology? Jen, you too?
I'm having issues, but
Are you trying it or are you in it?
All right. Well, feel free to raise your issues as we go along. Let's get started. So for our very first exercise, so the board is set up so that for all of this part, the first 30 minutes, we're just going to be going left to right, so you never have to worry about getting lost on the board. What I want you to do for our very first exercise is go into the introduction screen. So just slide a little bit to your right, and then follow the instructions there. So a couple things. To zoom in or zoom out, if you have a trackpad or a mouse, you can use the little scroll wheel, or you could, just like on a phone, you can kind of like zoom in, zoom out, like by sliding your fingers on the trackpad. And then if you don't have a trackpad or you can't figure that out, on the very bottom right is a mini map, and above the mini map is a plus or minus. If you click the plus or the minus or slide that little dot along that slider, you'll be able to move in and out as well. So all of those are good ways of moving in and out. And then also, if you want to move without actually grabbing anything that's on the board, you can hold down the space bar and then click and drag, it'll move you around. So then what I want you to do for this introductions is, one, add a Post-it note with your name onto your spirit animal, which at any one of these ones could be your spirit animal. You add a Post-it note in one of two ways. Either just double click literally anywhere and a Post-it note will pop up, add your name into it, drag it into the right place. Or on the left-hand side of the screen, you'll see a gray bar with a whole bunch of icons. The top one looks like a Post-it note. You can drag that, you can click on that and then just drag a Post-it note out. If you don't see the spirit animal that represents your spirit animal, I want it to be entirely accurate. So if you go over to the left-hand side of the screen, same gray bar, you'll see something that looks like a mountain and a moon. If you click on that, you can search for literally any image you want, then drag that out, and then you can have whatever spirit animal you want. And then you can also, I want you to add a picture of yourself. If there's pictures of you on the internet, you can use that same image search tool to get a picture, to find a picture of yourself just by typing in your name. Otherwise, you can drag in a picture from your desktop and just literally drag it onto the board and have a picture.
Yeah.
So let's do that. I'm gonna put 3 minutes on the clock to accomplish this activity, and feel free to ask any questions or if you run into any trouble. All right, I see Nancy and I see Christine, so we're on our way. I see Jill Francis typing in her name, awesome.
Yeah, that's cute.
Awesome, yep. If you look at the bottom right of any picture that you drag on, oh, you already figured it out, super.
It's kind of like a design intuitive thing to do that.
Yeah, that's great.
Might be intuitive to you.
There's the bottom right. Just make it smaller first.
Oh, that thing? Oh, okay.
Yeah, there you go. You got it.
Okay, I'm over here by the bulldog.
Great, Christine, looks like you're all set. Nancy, looks like you're all set. Nancy Rhodes?
Yep.
You doing okay?
Yeah, hold on.
And then Jennifer, and you have to help me pronounce your name. Yamilka?
Yamilka.
Yamilka. Are you two okay?
you know, I can't do it. I have to get my system, as you can hear it. It's
Trying to
I have to
reboot.
restart it. So I'm rebooting.
I only see myself though. I don't see other people.
You only see yourself.
Like,
Can you tell me more?
I see myself. I see the dolphin. Like,
You're in the wrong place. That's why. So if you go into the Zoom chat, you'll find the board that we're working on.
Oh, got it.
Hey, Linda, jump in and grab the bottom link. You'll get into the same space where we all are.
Got it.
And my internet is just excruciatingly slow.
That will make this harder.
So I'll do the best I can.
That's all we ever ask. All right. We have just a few seconds left, and then we're going to start our introductions.
Linda, the second icon is a note. You can drag a note onto the desktop and choose your spirit animal.
All right. Some people are adding some new spirit animals. That's awesome. All right. We're going to wrap up. Feel free to continue working as we start our introductions. And primarily have a spirit animal with your name. If you don't find a picture, it's okay. I'm just going to go clockwise around the pictures that are there. So all you have to do is just say your name and why you chose your spirit animal. So we'll start with Nancy Russo.
Oh, okay. My name is Nancy Russo. I do not know what the spirit animal was. It looked kind of funny, so I chose it because it was funny.
Perfect. That's a good answer. Jen Cole.
So I'm adding a picture of a pit bull.
Oh, okay. Awesome. I see it.
I see him, yeah.
Next to the lab, but I'm much more of a pit bull person. They're just loyal and warm and super happy and goofy and fabulous.
Thanks, Jen. Let's see. Nancy Rhodes.
Yeah, I recently realized I did this like personality test, and I'm an obliger, so I'm fairly positive, and then this happy puppy seems very much like me.
Awesome. Thanks. Jill Francis.
I don't know why I picked it. It's just the giraffes. They're very big and they're pretty patterned, I guess. I don't know.
Yep, that's okay. Perfect. Thanks. Christine.
I love bulldogs, and we don't have one, but they're just so cute. And anytime I see a bulldog on a card or something, I've sent it to my daughter. She loves them. She lives in New York. She always sees people walking bulldogs and sends, yes! Oh, I know, I love him, the surfer.
Yeah, that surfer dog is so cool.
Oh my God, I think he died. The original one died.
Oh no.
I know, but
That's
there's
sad.
others. I know, they used to be in the Rose Parade, so cute.
I'm with you. Bulldogs are awesome. We seem to have lots of dog people. Let's see. I think that's everybody. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Folks who maybe didn't navigate the board, so I can't call your name because I don't see you on there, but you want to unmute yourself and say hello and what animal you may have chosen?
Hi, this is Linda. I'm sorry, I'm just having some technical difficulty figuring out how to get a spirit animal. When I signed in, they gave me a cat, which I love and probably would have chosen. So at the bottom, I see a little kitty cat associated with my name, but I would have chosen a cat anyway. So that's.
Oh, sometimes it works out.
I don't know if I'm supposed to be doing something else. So sorry if I am.
No worries. We'll get you caught up. Okay. Is there anyone else who's not on the board that wants to pop in and say hi?
Yamilka, are you able to verbally?
Not yet. All right. Anyone else? All right. Well, okay. Well, thank you all for joining. My name is Eric Morrow. I'm a founder and a facilitator at Staircase Strategy. We do primarily remote facilitation for design thinking and design code creation. When I was talking with Nancy about what might be really interesting for this group of people, we thought, okay, how might we use facilitation to improve boring meetings or client pitches, or when you have participants that are taking your meetings off the rails? We planned this long pre-COVID. So now, although it would have been remote for us, now of course, we're all remote all the time. So this is maybe a doubly important lesson now. For our agenda, we just finished our introductions. We're gonna go look at your burning questions. I'm gonna introduce a framework for how to think about using facilitation in your meetings. You're all gonna have a chance to design your own meeting, share it with a partner, and then we'll wrap up. Always feel free to interrupt with questions, comments, or concerns, always welcome. So I'm gonna summon you all to look at our burning questions. So we haven't had a chance to really put much up here yet, so I'm gonna invite you all to do is think for a minute about what burning questions you have about running effective meetings in any context. Just a meeting, whether it's a workshop, maybe it's a client pitch meeting, any type of meeting that you can think about. I want you to add your Post-it notes here. And on each Post-it note, please put one question. You can ask as many questions as you want, though. So the way you can add a Post-it note in one of two ways. If you just double click right on this orangey box, or peach maybe, it'll find a Post-it note. You can also go onto the left-hand side of the screen where there's a gray bar, click on the Post-it note and just drag one out and start typing. My recommendation in Mural, start typing first and then move your Post-it note where you want it to be. Otherwise, sometimes it's hard to get your cursor back. All right, I'm gonna put 3 minutes on our clock to get your questions out, but feel free to ask me any questions about the technical side as we do that. All right, I still see people actively typing. So, yep, you can ask as many questions as you want. It doesn't have to just be one. So whatever is top of mind.
No, 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 no.
All right. Yep, just put the finishing touches on whichever question you're working on. Okay. What I'd like you all to do now is, if you go over to the left-hand side of your screen, you'll see a star in that menu bar. If you click on that star, a drawer will pop up full of icons.
Ooh.
If you type anything you want into that, for example, I really like buffaloes. I even have my buffalo shirt on today. And go pick an icon that you enjoy. There's no right or wrong answers, but I'll show you. I just dragged one out, and this is a buffalo. Kind of a weird looking buffalo, but a buffalo nonetheless. What I want you to do is drag that onto any Post-it note that you found interesting. So all we're looking to do is just try to understand which Post-it notes are interesting. And then you can, while you're selecting your icon that's already out on the screen, if you press Control-D, it'll duplicate it. You can duplicate it as many times as you like, and then put your icons on any Post-it note that you find interesting. You can also change the color of your icon. right? So you can make it orange or blue or etc. So feel free to use a little bit of your creativity. And then, yeah, no limit. Just put your icons on the Post-it notes that you find particularly interesting. Let's take.
Where do I find the icons?
If you look on the very far left side of your screen, you'll see a star. If you click on that star, it'll open up a drawer and you can search in there for any icon or emojis. All right, let's have a look at what people are voting on. So how do you ask people to wrap up nicely? I'm demonstrating that right now. The timer also helps. Structuring content to build understanding for complex problems. Creative itinerary and engaging. How do you redirect when a participant is grandstand? Everyone voted on that. Oh my God, I can talk about that all day. But yeah, we'll come back to that. An effective way to have everyone speak versus those that always speak and take over the meeting. Yep. When you have meetings scheduled that people RSVP to, how do you get them to actually show up? I don't run lots of meetings, but want to find out how to keep people on track even with 3 people. How do you talk to engineer types about design matters? Cool. I think, yeah. First of all, thanks for voting. I'm going to see if we can put these into clusters. So you're welcome to help me. I was trying to put together, and then we can label them so we just kind of get a sense of the topics that are important to folks. So feel free to join me. So like for this top right one, we'll just call this grandstanding. I often call it hippo as well, which is for the highest paid person's opinion. It's also often the oldest white person, for better or worse. Yeah, cool. Yeah, thank you all for jumping in. Feel free to, I'll duplicate this so you can take this title and, you know, just if you double click on it, you can then change it to anything you want. So we can label some of these other groups. Call this one engagement. Cool. All right. Thank you all for asking these questions. I'll do my best to answer a couple of them, but if you have another opinion, do feel free to please unmute. You don't have to be muted at all unless you have some kind of massive background noise. There's only 5 or 6 of us. So feel free to jump in and add your thoughts. My first question on grandstanding and wrapping up and how do you prevent people from taking over is, especially online, you can, if you have a really clear agenda with how much time everything's going to take, you can always say that's the amount of time that we have allocated for this right now. And you've seen that when I keep adding the timer in Mural, right? 3 minutes. We don't have 10 minutes or 20 minutes or 50 minutes, and you can keep bringing people back to the agenda, right? Is the thing that you're saying right now important enough to displace something that's happening later in the day? Wrapping up, I find the most effective way to wrap up is the opposite of what I'm doing right now, but I'll say, for example, Jill Francis, there's this purple Post-it note right here that says, how do you redirect? Can you read that out, please? Let's actually do it. Can you unmute and read it out?
So you want me to do it?
Yes, please.
How do you redirect when a participant is grandstanding or taking the conversation in the wrong direction?
Yeah, I often find that a participant speaking brings people's attention back more than the facilitators. But also when you're online, it's really hard to have multi-threaded conversations, right? It's really hard to have one group having like a small conversation in the corner at a table when only really one person can be speaking at a time. So I find that to be less important. And the last thing I would say is versus like having one person take over the entire thing. If you have people do what we did here, which is, hey, everyone, take a few minutes to write down your thoughts first. And then rather than saying, hey, does anyone have something they want to say, which is kind of really open-ended, allows the person who's very extroverted, really thinks their opinion is important, just call on people. So I'll show you how that works. So here's another one, structuring content to build understanding for complex problems. Who wrote that one? And can you tell us what you mean by that? Give us a little bit more context.
Hey, yeah, this is Jen. I wrote that. Do you want me to?
Yes, please.
Wait, what am I supposed to read it or what? I forgot what I was supposed to do.
Yeah, if you could read it out and then give us just another sentence or
Sure.
two context.
So structuring content to build understanding for complex problems. And what I mean by that is that sometimes when I'm hosting meetings with multiple people, people don't trust that they're going to learn where we're headed throughout the process, and they jump ahead and they have a lot of very nervous energy around getting it. And so I was thinking about the question of how to build that comprehension of the bigger picture so that there's a greater comfort in engaging with the process.
Great, thank you. So those are two strategies that I use all the time for dealing with these sorts of scenarios, right? Of people grandstanding, taking over. So if you can get people to write down their thoughts first, you can call on folks, and you can call on folks who had a lot of people interested in their ideas rather than just the person who wants to stand up and take over. Online is really not very conducive for that anyway, especially if you have an agenda. So more or less, the Miro board I put together, I feel like the design of your program is going to help you answer those questions rather than your skill as a facilitator, right? That if you design the program in this capacity, in this way, you have a clear agenda, you're moving people along, you're asking people to put their heads down and write before speaking, you're asking people to vote before speaking, that'll help some of this, some of these challenges. So let's move forward. So if you again slide to your right, we're now under something called facilitation framework. And what we're going to do now, I'm going to introduce this framework, and then you're all going to have a chance to first dissect it and then practice it. So the framework is pre-workshop planning, have a design challenge, right? Define the problem statement. 2, define the focus and the function of the workshop. And then 3, define the agenda. So let's stop there for a second. And I want you all to dissect what I did. Over here, if you look at just the right of the facilitation framework, there's that same box. And then where it says problem statement, focus, and agenda, I want you to think, try to understand what I did for this meeting. So go in there and put in a Post-it note and try to think, like, what did I do as the design challenge? What was the problem statement that our group is working on right now? And then define the focus and function, right? Think about, who did I know of the participants? What were the outcomes? What are the team expectations going into it? And then the agenda. What did I do for an agenda? So go into that 3x3 and put in your own Post-it notes and try to think about how I answered those questions myself, because I use this framework to design the workshop that you're in. So I want you to kind of think backwards. Any questions about the instructions? So I'm not seeing a lot of post-it notes popping in. So can you ask me what your questions or can you tell me about what the problem is? You don't follow the instructions, having trouble with Miro board, something else?
I'm not quite sure what I'm supposed to do, I guess. Are we
Yeah.
taking stuff from this?
What I want you to do is think through, try to reverse engineer why this meeting is set up the way that it is. Because I built this meeting using the framework that I put up there. And I want you to kind of try to engage with this, as this is kind of the learning part, right? Is try to engage with this framework and try to say, well, how does this framework relate to what we're actually doing here?
Are we supposed to do it in any of the squares, or?
Yeah, we're gonna do the first 3 squares along the first
the left
first
side
column. Yeah, along the left side column, exactly. Maybe it seems like it is being a challenge. So why don't we try it in a different way? Feel free to unmute and just answer. What do you think the problem statement is? What are we trying to do with this workshop?
Oh, man. Well, I think originally you said something about, boring meetings, at least in I missed the first few minutes of this call, so sorry about that. But in the promotional materials, it was, have you been bored at meetings? How can you use facilitation to enable design thinking? Those were the things that appealed to me, which is why I'm here.
Perfect. So then, yeah, that's exactly what I did, right? So that was the design challenge, right? That's the original problem statement. That's what I'm trying to solve. So now let's think about the focus and function of the workshops, including the participants, the users, outcomes, team expectations. So can someone else try to reverse engineer this? What are the answers to those questions? Right, who are the participants for this meeting?
Us. Designers. Okay. Well, mostly designers. Okay. So to me, what I wanted was information about client presentations and client pitches. So I think I'm looking for something different.
I don't think so. What you're seeing here is how I pitch clients. I'm not making up something special for you all. And so what are the outcomes? What should the outcome of this workshop be?
Basically, to see how a meeting should flow, to get your clients to really pay attention within that meeting, and absorb what you're giving them.
Sure. And what's the agenda? This part's probably the easiest, but what's the agenda of this meeting?
To learn the process.
But more specifically, what are the elements that go into this meeting or this workshop that we're having? It's all written down there on the left. It's not a secret. Right, go have a look and tell me what the agenda is.
Focus, agenda.
Stay on track. Is that the agenda? Awareness, outcomes.
So the agenda is in green boxes all the way on the left-hand side, right next to the introduction, right? Where it says introductions, burning questions, the framework, design your own meeting, pair and share, wrap up. So all the activities that are part of this workshop are laid out for the participants so that they can follow along, right? They never have to wonder when something's going to be happening. All right.
Okay.
So for all meetings, you're saying no matter what kind of a meeting, sharing the agenda is an important part of the meeting so people know what
I completely agree, and I always send an agenda prior to the meeting so people can know what to expect and what they're going to get out of it.
Okay.
All right, so now let's think about the second box. It says during the workshop, execution. So the 3 items are stay on track and momentum by following the agenda, the awareness of participants' perspective and energy, what their mindsets are, and make sure you hit the outcomes. So let's think about how this is going. So now we're in the middle of this workshop, right? How am I keeping you all on track? How are we maintaining our momentum to go through this workshop?
Well, it's interactive, so each of us can participate rather than just sitting here and muting.
Exactly. So interactivity, really good. How else are we staying on track?
You're also giving a specific timing and shifting gears when we're not getting it.
Okay. Thanks. Anything else? How else are we staying on track?
You asking questions as you go along to see what people are getting, not getting, and to see if we know where we're supposed to be.
Yep, great. So awareness of participants' perspective and energy. How do you do that as a facilitator? What am I doing as a facilitator to do that?
Reaching out to
Go ahead,
all
Lynn.
the reaching out to all of the different participants.
Mm-hmm.
Reading
And
the
being
room.
aware when we're being aware of us not participating.
Yeah. Okay, great. Nancy?
I was saying reading the room, basically to see if we're getting it, if we're frustrated, if, if we've seemed to frozen in time.
Yeah, that's all great. And so we're not quite there yet, but my goal as a facilitator in this hour is to make sure we hit our outcomes, right? The outcomes that we defined under the planning stage, right? And the outcomes are, I want you all to experience what it's like to be in this style of facilitated meeting and be able to start using the elements of it yourself. I've been facilitating for 20 years. I don't expect you to do that in 60 minutes, but I hope that you come out of this with something that you can start improving your own meetings with to make them either more engaging or to make sure you hit your own outcomes wherever they happen to be. A good moment to point out, there's 2 links underneath facilitation framework. These are methods from the design thinking toolkit, which is the primary toolkit that I use, which you are welcome to use and both in the next exercise that we're about to do and also anytime in your own work. But if you search design thinking methods, you'll find there's tons of them on the internet. These are just 2 places to start. And then we're not after the workshop yet, but I'll just quickly speak to these. Documentation. If you're in real life documenting, taking pictures, making sure everyone knows what happened during the workshop is important. It's actually a little bit easier online because documentation just occurs automatically, right? So everything that happens during this workshop is being documented on the mural board. Feedback and debrief. I'm going to ask you all for feedback at the end of the workshop so we can get that. And so me as a facilitator, I can get better. And also I can help better serve you if we were going to do another workshop together. And then probably the most important thing is make sure you define the next steps. What are you as an individual going to do next to make sure that your meetings are more engaging, et cetera. So let's have pause for a moment. Are there any questions before we move forward?
I do have a question. I do have a question about where these links are.
Yeah, if you double click underneath where it says facilitation framework, there's one that says design kit and there's one that's a PDF. If you double click on either of those, they should open up in a new window.
Oh, okay. I just saw that they were locked, but I see that when you double click, they're not. Okay, got it.
Yeah. In Mural, if you lock something, it turns into a clickable thing. You just have to double click it. All right, so what I would like you to do, I'm gonna summon you all again. We're gonna have a chance to practice this right now in the next, about the next 5-10 minutes. What I want you to do is to design your own meeting and make it really specific for whatever is coming up next in your own life, whether it's a client pitch, whether or not you're gonna lead a workshop, whether or not you're leading a meeting at your office, whatever it happens to be. And I don't know how many people are actually participating now. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, looks like 5 people. Are you all on Mural? Looks like it. Okay, cool. So go in and add your name to a box. Because there's only 5 of us, if you could just use these boxes on the left-hand side of the screen directly under design your own meeting. But I'm gonna put up 5 minutes and I want you to think about how could you use the framework and the frameworks in each box to think about designing your own meeting, whatever's coming up. And then we're gonna pair and share in just a moment. So I'm gonna put up 5 minutes. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask. But yeah, try to do the same thing we just did, which is think about what your meeting is gonna look like, what the objectives are, how you're gonna plan it, what are your goals for moving people through it. Let's take 5 minutes to do that. And while we're working, feel free to ask me any questions.
How come she's, oh.
Pardon me?
Oh, I wonder why Nancy was a square and I'm a circle.
Oh, you can have 2 different types of Post-it-notes.
Okay, I just didn't want to be.
No magic to it. You can always click, if you click on a Post-it note, you can click, there's like a box with arrows on it in the menu bar, and then you can switch the type of the Post-it note to be anything you like.
Oh, okay, let's see. All right, there we go. I like that color.
All right, so yeah, clearly you're not gonna be able to design a whole meeting in 5 minutes, but just start thinking about how you might use this framework. All right, we're about halfway through our time. All right, if you start wrapping up your thoughts. We're going to do a share in just a moment, but if you can turn your attention to the Zoom rather than the mural, I want to just show you one quick thing before we move forward. Let's see. So just to show you, so this is generically my intake form for what I do as during my first client pitch. And so you can see it's, first of all, it's on Mural, so I'm not messing with you all. And what we do is we start with who they are and what they're trying to accomplish. We introduce ourselves, we take notes, and then we try to really understand what they're trying to accomplish and then say, okay, here's our proposal for them. So you can see that this one's not quite finished yet. So the conversation is not done with that particular client, but this is exactly how we do it. So I'm not trying to show you something that we don't follow ourselves. So let's go back. We don't have enough time, unfortunately, to do that pair and share. So what I would like to do is just ask for one of you to share out what you came up with, and we'll just talk about that one before we wrap up. So anyone feel particularly interested in sharing?
I will.
All right, Linda, please. Which box are you in? Oh, I see you. Okay, great. Yeah. Please kind of tell us what you were working on.
So I'm consulting with an academic publisher on helping them kind of create efficiencies in their editorial design and production department, which, you know, is a stressful thing in this at any time, and even more with the kind of financial situation that most businesses find themselves in. You know, I'm not going to pretend that there aren't going to be changes to ways of working, staff reductions, whatever, but I still, in good conscience, I need to interview the people who are doing these jobs to understand, you know, what they do, what they think is not working, any ideas they might have for greater efficiency, and just begin that communication. So it's slightly awkward. So to start off with, I think I really need to be clear about establishing the goals of the meeting, making an agenda in advance that states those goals, to share with them, and to really think about who I'm meeting with when I create this agenda, so that it's as kind of supportive and friendly as is possible. And then during the meeting, I want to be sure that they feel heard. And, you know, if they're having trouble, you know, thinking about alternative ways of having them communicate, you know, I think this idea of having them like write down their answers and then read their thoughts, similar to what we've been doing, is interesting. And I would never have thought to do that. And also asking really open-ended questions so that they can express their views instead of just like yes/no questions, which sometimes are a lot more efficient, but they're not as personal and personable. So that's as far as I got.
Great. How do you feel about experimenting with this framework so far?
I like it. I mean, I don't know that I'm going to be able to use Mural per se. So I'd like to try to think about, I mean, the designers maybe would be into it, but I'm also meeting with, you know, manuscript editorial people and other editorial people who may just be like, what, you know? So I just need to think about that. But even just letting people write on a piece of paper, you know, I don't know that it needs to be quite so high tech is what I'm saying. So this has been open-minded. I mean, I always would share an agenda in advance, but yeah, I don't know. The more I do meetings, the more I realize that they're more like a dance than they are like a conductor in front of an orchestra, which is, I think, the way I used to always conduct a meeting, was thinking I was the conductor and they were the orchestra. But I need to empower people in meetings to sort of have their own perspective, or else it's not really useful.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you for sharing. Something I often do is just, I load up Mural and share it through the video tool, rather than having people interact with it directly. And then I always send them the link. I say, if you want to jump in here, you're welcome to. You're also welcome to just look at it through the screen, through the Zoom screen or something like that. And I feel like a lot of people take that option, especially early on when we first start working together. Thank you for that. I think we actually, yeah, we have time for one more person if someone else wants to go and kind of talk through what they were working on. Any volunteers?
Someone else want to go?
And so something to think, if you have the time and interest and inclination, you can kind of ask the question, like sit in the silence until someone volunteers. If you're in a room full of people where the people who are willing to speak up are a certain type of person and the people who are more quiet are a different type of person, it's often really helpful just to call in folks, right? So I could think like, okay, well, we just heard from Linda, and I guess actually everyone else has spoken fairly consistently. But if there was someone else who hadn't spoken fairly consistently, you can see their names and you can see all the stuff that they wrote. And so you can follow along as people are typing in, and then just call on someone who has something that's interesting to share, maybe didn't participate as much. So for example, I might say, you know, Jen, I thought the work that you're doing was really interesting. Do you mind speaking for a couple of minutes about what you were working on?
I'm laughing because I am a more reluctant participant and my internet is just so painful right now.
Don't feel obligated if it's not good, but that's just an example of how I would approach it.
Yeah, I mean, I can't even like scroll to my section to read my stuff because my internet's so bad. So.
Okay, so let's go with somebody else. Christine or Jill Francis, do either of you want to talk through your work, or Nancy?
I'd be happy to.
All right, Nancy, go for it.
Okay. So on Friday, I'm part of a group that we created a community meeting called I Don't See Color, a conversation about race, business, and where to invest your dollars. So the meeting will be a community forum in Zoom. It's free and open to everybody in the world, or at least in New York. We will start with introductions of the speaker and thank the participants for joining. The speakers will discuss the subject issues that I said in what it was. We're going to ask if there are follow-up questions, and we're going to thank everyone for attending and give them a follow-up email with a synopsis and links as well.
Great. How was your experience trying to work inside this framework?
I could double click and it made a box. It was pretty easy.
Okay.
But it did, it did make me think of, the steps that I wanted to put in there, which was good because we were discussing today in an earlier meeting. So like who's making the introduction and, what's going on. So this was helpful. Yeah,
that's great. There's a tool that we didn't talk about today, but I'll see if I can just pop it in real quick. It's called a service design blueprint, which it can be very helpful for answering that very specific question. Let me see if I can find one super fast. I don't vouch for this particular example, but it was the first one that popped up on Mural. And you could create that sort of flow, and then underneath it, each one put the name of the person, right? So using your example that you have here, right? You could put like Nancy could be there, and then you're like, okay, Nancy's doing that part, and then like, I don't know, person 2 is doing that part, and then so on and so forth.
Okay.
So we don't have time to really dig into it, but service design blueprints are really helpful for these sorts of things. So feel free to explore it if it seems interesting. All right. First of all, thank you all for trying out the framework. I know it's not easy just to kind of jump in and go for it, especially when we have a new tool. So first of all, thank you for just engaging with it. I'm going to bring you all down to the bottom where there is a feedback grid. And I would invite you to just reflect on the work that we just did. There's 4 boxes in the feedback grid. You can double click anywhere, it'll create a post note. You can think about what worked well, what should change, what unanswered questions you have, and what new ideas do you want to try based on what we just went through. So let's just take a minute or two to respond to these questions. Yeah, I still see some people typing, so let's just take another minute or two to just finish putting in your thoughts. Yeah, great. Thank you all for that feedback. This is how myself and Staircase get better at the work we do, is by soliciting feedback from folks just like yourselves who were in meetings or workshops with us. So I'll make sure to read every single post note. I thank you for your time and energy. I also thank you for your time and energy in jumping into this brave new world of facilitation, remote facilitation, doing everything through the video screen. I know there's definitely always a learning curve, and I appreciate you just trying out some new things. And hopefully that you got one or two things out of this hour together that are effective and productive for you. I'll just wrap up by saying, yep, my name's Eric again. I'm part of Staircase Strategy. Our bread and butter is remote enterprise innovation, right? So we do a lot of work where teams learn through working on strategic initiatives. They learn about design thinking, they learn about remote facilitation, they learn about doing co-creation with their customers or their users. And we often use, we primarily use a platform like Mural and Zoom. My email's there, always feel free to say hello. Website's there as well for Staircase Strategy. If you're interested in working with us, we're always happy to hear from folks. And with the final minute, I'll just turn it back over to Nancy.
Yeah, so if you guys want to hang on for a few minutes, we can discuss, how everything went, and if you have any other questions. And thank you. I thought this was kind of interesting. I really didn't know what I was getting myself into when I, Libby recommended you, and so it sounded really interesting to me, and I enjoyed it. It really made me think about some of the meetings that I have coming up. So thank you.
Thank you. It's always a pleasure.
Okay. Do you guys want to discuss further, or are you? No, everybody's like blinded by what they just did, and they're in a fog.
No, I mean, it was good. It was not what I expected, and coming late, I kind of felt like I was on my back foot most of the time, but I think that's always good. It's good to not feel like you know what's going on all the time. But
It was good. You presented it very well, Eric. Good, nice presentation. And I agree with the class that said it moved a bit too fast. I think we could have maybe had an hour and a half to spend more time on it, but
yeah,
an hour is good.
Fast.
Yeah, we can always try doing it on our own as well.
Yeah, good point.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, because I think it's a really interesting. This is Jen. I think it's a really interesting framework that and platform that could really be flexible and modified to do a lot of different things.
Yeah. Cool. All right, everyone. So we will see you next time. Thanks again.
Yeah, thanks for
Thank
hosting me.
you.
Bye.
Thanks,
All right, take care,
Nancy.
everyone.
Bye, everybody.
Bye. Have a great day.
You too.
Great.